Content warnings for this episode may include mentions of surgery and racism. Genderful would like to acknowledge the indigenous peoples and unceded lands that the producers, hosts, and guests live and have dwelt upon. Today, we honor the Coast Salish
and the Ohlone.
We honor the elders, the human, plant, and animal ancestors of these lands and celebrate the living descendants of these. May all beings tend these lands for the goodness of the next 7 generations and beyond. Meowdy folks, welcome to Genderful, a talk show interviewing gender diverse folks about their special interests.
The name of our show celebrates that gender expansiveness is wonderful.
Hi, I'm GenderMeowster, and my pronouns are they, them.
Hi, I'm Atlas O Phoenix, and my pronouns are also they, them. The focus of our show is to interview trans, non-binary, agender, and gender-diverse people regarding their special interests, passion projects, and resources for the gender-diverse community.
We want our audience to know that this show is hosted by 2 folks who also identify as non-binary, transmasculine, neurodivergent, and disabled, with a passion for telling trans stories.
If you're new to our show, welcome. We're delighted you're here.
At the end of this interview, we have Clouder Query, where we like to ask you a question related to this week's topic. We'd like to invite you, our listeners, to answer the Clouder Query on our social media platforms. This show is made possible by volunteers, tips, and subscriptions.
Shout out to those helping us coordinate guests, edit the podcast, moderate the live chat, and post on our socials.
If you would like to support the show with your time, please join our Discord server and meet the community and get a regular digest of Solidarity resources. If you'd like to catch us live, join us on Mondays at twitch.tv/GenderMeowster. Show notes will appear in the edited version of the show on Fridays on both YouTube and podcasting platforms.
If you love the show, check out some of our earlier episodes. We invite you to remember that we are whole people with robust lives, friendships, challenges, and successes. We love and are loved, and we are delighted to share these stories with you.
As always, we kindly remind our listeners that no person is a monolith of their identities. Your identities can change over time and are valid every step of the way. And if you think you're gender diverse, you are gender diverse. There are no social or medical prerequisites to be included in the community. So folks, welcome to Genderful episode 78. This week, our guest, Shawn Aaron, who uses he, him pronouns, is chatting with us about their nonprofit organization, Dem Bois, which focuses on supporting transmasculine people of color. We first found out about Dem Bois in late 2022 when the Clouder staff was putting together a mega post about grant applications for gender-affirming surgeries. And that is still my pinned tweet if anyone wants to go check out that list. Shawn, welcome to Genderful. It's so exciting to have you here.
Oh, great. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Such a delight. I loved our pre-show conversations together. It was really heartwarming experience for me.
Yes, definitely. Thank you.
So one thing that I like to ask all of our guests is what might be some things you can trace back to your youth that indicated you might be gender diverse one day?
So going back to my youth, I identify as transmasculine now, but a lot of folks say when they were younger, they knew. I didn't really know when I was younger that I would one day transition, but I was different because I wasn't the typical, girl running around playing. I was always masculine presenting.
Mm-hmm.
I was never really forced not to be masculine presenting, unless we were going to church, and that was like a thing where like, hey, you have to wear this dress or you have to wear this skirt. So I've always known that I was different in a way that I didn't do what people thought that little girls should do. So I was always running around with my male cousins, always, running, spitting, jumping, fighting, rough type of things that's typically not what, the little girls that I grew up with were doing. So I kind of always knew that I was different in that way.
Did you identify as like a tomboy or a butch or any of those things at any point along the journey?
Yeah, I guess I always identified as a tomboy, but only because that's what people called me. I didn't exactly resonate with that term per se, but it's like, okay, this is easier to, explain who I am. And this is what people already say that I am. So that's kind of like how I adopted that name and that term for myself.
Yeah. I feel like I was similar. I played like all kinds of pretend fighting games in my mind. Like when I was make believe, it wasn't like teen weddings. It was like ninjas and cowboys and all that stuff.
Definitely. Like
I think I
definitely
was,
F was my thing back in the day, like wanting to be a wrestler and like,
yeah.
fight with my cousins and body slamming and doing all that type of stuff. Yeah.
Oh yeah, totally. Um, so how has your relationship to gender evolved over time? You've gone from this wonderful rascal to like fully manifested, beautiful being that you are today. How did you get from point A to point B?
Oh, it took a lot of years and a lot of self-discovery for sure. I transitioned later in life. So I transitioned when I was 32.
Mm.
So it took a lot for me actually. I was okay with where I was in life. I came out in my late teens as a lesbian, and I was okay with that. Like that identity for me was okay. Until later in life when I just started to feel a little different. I think restrooms made me feel a little different. Like going into the restrooms, I felt different in the way that I presented myself. I didn't feel comfortable, and I had never met another trans-identified person until I had a personal trainer who was trans-identified, and from there it was like my mind just was open and realizing that, hey, wait a minute, maybe now in life I want to see myself differently. I want to transition into something else. I don't want to be who I thought I was. I don't feel comfortable in that way anymore. So it kind of evolved over time, just like slowly, but in every piece that I was and became, I was okay with that at that moment. And so now that I'm here now, I'm okay with who I am now. So
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Um, let's see. I have another question. What are some of the hard things that you had to deal with throughout your transition in the beginning and even currently?
in the beginning, meaning what? Like when I started T in the beginning, or like
Maybe. Yeah. I mean, so there's so many elements of
right.
transition, changing your name, and like there's the legal transition, getting your markers updated, and then there's the physical transition if people choose to undergo that. You can be trans without doing any medical intervention. And, I think you've had some. And I don't know. So I feel like sometimes it can help to talk about those so you can normalize that, yeah, there's challenges and they're overcomable.
Mm,
Like,
absolutely.
we persevere through the challenges. Yeah. So I wonder if there's any of that you would feel open to sharing.
Yeah, there's a few challenges. I think that in the beginning, so I'm just gonna, speak of my own experience. And when I first started T, I thought that was easy. Okay, I know what I'm getting myself into, right? I've met other people at this point, so I know what I'm supposed to look like,
Mhm.
but I wasn't expecting my body to change in the ways that it changed. So I think that was really hard for me. Just because I feel like, when I started T, is like you're going through puberty again, but you're more aware of it because it's more
Mhm.
voluntary. The first time you go through it is involuntary. Your body
Yeah.
has to, right? And so it was like experiencing these things that, wait a minute, I'm able to look from the outside in to my body now. And so it was very confusing and very hard for me. Seeing my body change in ways that I didn't recognize. I knew that it would happen, but actually seeing it and witnessing it for myself, it was very hard for me. The acne was hard. Just
Oh,
the
yeah.
and the mood shifts was very hard. Seeing my face change was very hard. It was times when I would walk by the mirror and I'd be like, "Who is that?" Oh, that's me. So it's like
Mhm.
that was very hard for me. And I think later, as it's kind of like that in between part of like when someone sees you, now I say it's a privilege of like passing, right? That's a privilege to say you passing, but that's not everyone's story, right? And it's always like that in between part. So I think like
Mhm.
that in between part, going to the restrooms was very difficult for me.
Oh God. Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel, and then later on in life, like just a few years ago, how I identified became very difficult for me, right? Because all my life I identified as a lesbian, but then as transition is like, wait, I don't fit that identity anymore. So where am I now? Right. So figuring out who I love and who I'm attracted to. That's like that's like my new struggle now. So it's like,
Yeah.
being able to put words to that. And what if I don't have words for that? And being like, it's okay to just not have words for that. And I love who I love, and that's it. So that's become a struggle that I'm working through currently. So
Yeah. That's such a mood. I feel like all of the things you're saying I relate to so much. The people in chat are agreeing, especially with the acne struggle and being surprised at how rough that is. I think part of it's compound, right? Because it's not only your skin is changing, like my skin is getting tougher as a trans woman, and her skin got thinner. Like she started getting all these injuries that she didn't expect because, her skin got thin. And mine is getting tougher. And also I call it the slowest werewolf transformation ever, because there's all these ingrown hairs, right? As new hair is starting to form in different parts of the body. And like, so it's just like, there's acne because the skin is changing. There's also acne because there's ingrown hairs. And so it's just like totally horrifying. It's like the slowest body horror transformation. Like,
I think for me, I think my acne was a trigger to my childhood. When I was younger, I had horrible acne. So I was always embarrassed. I always felt ugly. I've always felt ashamed of the acne that I had. So as I got a little older, my early 20s, my acne went away. I had this beautiful skin, right? I was always like, oh, my skin is glowing. I had finally got to that part. Was like, okay, I defeated all this acne. I'm good. I got my skin routine going. And then bam, boom, it came back. It was like, oh no, I got to go through this again, right? So it was like a trigger for me.
Yeah. How many years into your medical transition are you at this point?
I am celebrating 10 years come this 11th of this month. So yeah.
Ooh, excited. That's so cool, Shawn. I love that for you. Does the acne ever end for those of us who are still in the thick of it?
You know what? You gotta really get your skin routine on. I'm real funny about how I treat my skin. I don't play around when it comes to my morning creams, my day creams, my night creams, my facial wash. So it does go away actually. I think now the only thing that I do still struggle with is I have a lot of hair on my back, so I tend to get a lot of acne there, and which is very difficult because you can't really scratch it when it's itching, so it's really hard. That's about the only acne that I have, but on my face, there is hope, So if you get a good routine in and find a product that's right for you, or maybe it's just the soap, or maybe it's just the face wash, it can be rectified.
Yeah. There's lots of comments about celebrating your 10 years in the chat.
Yes.
Is reading about the acne. Something else you mentioned is, I think you said it's sort of your growing edge right now is figuring out who you love now. And I think the piece about when gender shifts and the like biochemistry changes, sometimes our sexuality can shift too. And that's like, I didn't hear anyone talking about that until I started listening to trans podcasts, not necessarily relationship ones, just like trans people talking about their experiences. And it's totally true. Like, I've evolved so many times. I've gone from thinking I was ace to being bisexual for a month to being lesbian for, I don't know, 5, 7, 10 years. I think I'm some flavor of pansexual or gay. I'm like gay man as a sexual identity, but not as a gender identity, if that makes sense. Yeah. Like I'm non-binary identified gender wise, but I'm also a gay man sexuality wise, but I'm also pansexual and I'm married to a trans woman. So it's like, I'm all the things. I don't know.
Yeah, it has become, I won't say that it's still difficult. I think it's, every day is an evolvement, right? I think that I love to identify as being queer because I don't necessarily say I identify with being a gay man or I identify with being pansexual. It's like I'm all of these things, but I don't necessarily resonate with one or the other. So I tend to say I'm a queer man. And
I like that.
Yeah, I think it definitely does change. I know prior to transitioning, I knew that I wasn't attracted to anyone other than what I thought I knew of being lesbian or being a woman. I know that in a feminine presenting body, meaning when I say that, I mean with breasts and other things like that, I knew that I wasn't attracted to men. Once I transitioned, it was like a different thing of like, okay, well, that's different to be a masculine presenting person as a man and being attracted to another man. So it's definitely different, and it takes a lot of working through, actually. So a lot of therapy and just a lot of like self-discovery and really leaning into who I am as a person.
Yeah. You know, I've heard elders. There's this great show called Stealth Transmasculine Podcast. I don't know if you've heard of them, but they are trying to capture the stories of folks who transitioned on or before the year 2000. They're friends of mine. They actually have been on the show, and I love the project that they're doing because they're documenting all of these old stories. Like, because that generation was so was told to be on the down low and to be stealth and to tuck that away and hide that you're trans, because trans men typically pass easier than trans women because of our bone structure. We look like petite guys. We don't look like, giant women sticking out or whatever. There's a whole lot of fear that I know trans women can have about no matter how many surgeries maybe they get, they'll still be clocked because of their bone structure. But the show is documenting all of these like trans masculine people who our stories weren't captured or told because we were told to hide, and that was what was safest for us. And so I would say somewhere between 80 to 90% of those folks talked about sort of realizing or becoming a gay man, like in the process, like going from being lesbian to being a gay man. So it was like totally paradigm shifting, like mind opening experience to hear all of those stories and sort of, it's not like a study that was done with statistics or whatever, but just to hear the story, notice like, oh yeah, this seems like this is actually pretty common. It's affirming to hear that that's real for me. So I just want to share that with you. Like, you're not alone. A lot of people have that experience. It's like, whoa, all right. Yeah.
It's kind of funny because when I first began to transition, I was watching a lot of documentaries. I was trying to tune into like, finding folks on YouTube and things. I watched one documentary. I can't remember the name of it right now, but it was done by a Black trans filmmaker, and it was interviewing older trans-identified men. And I didn't think that was my story, right? I listened to how they told their stories about how their attraction shifted and changed, during their transition. But I was like, I thought I was just doing it I just want to hear other stories and other points of view. I never thought that it would be me. And just recently, a few months ago, that documentary popped up somewhere. I think I was on LinkedIn, and it popped up. The person who produced the film was bringing it back up for folks to see. And I revisited and I watched it, and I was, wow, just to think how I was in that moment when I watched it originally and how I feel now is totally different. So it's just, it's a learning process about learning yourself and just being open to learning yourself and being open to shifting and changing.
Yeah, that's so wild. This is a wonderful series of topics. Let's talk a bit more about Dem Bois Inc. What inspired you to found Dem Bois Inc.?
So when I transitioned 10 years ago, and sometimes I don't mention to folks the privilege that I had around transitioning, right? Because a lot of folks think, oh, you're a trans man of color. There must have been some disparities in the transition, right? And not everyone's story is the same. And because of my job, I was able to transition rather quickly. I was able to transition. My transition was smooth. And after transition, I don't know, I wasn't being naive, but I guess because I wasn't around as many trans-identified folks, I didn't really know. So I just thought it was easy for everyone. I was just like, oh, this just got to be easy for everyone, right? And I saw a post on Instagram, and it was this trans man of color, and he posted a video prior to having top surgery. And his caption read that, hey, this is my chest. I might as well, not verbatim, right? But it was like, hey, I might as well just get used to this because I'll never be able to afford top surgery. And to me, that was mind blowing. I was like, wait, what do you mean? like, and so I started to do a research of like, how difficult is it really for folks to have this done? And then, I was like, I got to do something. Like, I need to figure out what I can do to help other trans men of color feel that same joy that I felt with transitioning and just having top surgery. And it's not just about T, right? It's about however you feel about your body, and it's your journey. And so that's how Dem Bois was formed.
That's so good. I think I can't tell you how many times I've seen a trans person go through surgery or something, and then immediately want to turn around and share that privilege and access with everybody who's coming behind us. Like, that's why I'm working so hard to document what my stuff has been like, so that resource exists and there's more like stories out there than I had when I was thinking about it. And a majority of the like trans grants that I've seen mostly are founded by trans men, not exclusively, but the ones I've noticed, there's a theme here. Like, it's mostly trans men, and they struggle to get their stuff funded, and so then they turn around and started a grant because they wanted to make it easier for everybody else. And it's so powerful and important and cool, and like, I love it. So one thing that I love is you're specifically focusing on trans men of color with your grants. There's a trans needle project somewhere. I don't know where it's located. And they have like applications for white people. And because it's hard to get needles. That's like an ongoing struggle to take my testosterone. And so my like medical helper person, which I'm glad that I have one, found this project and sent it to me. It was like, hey, here's a resource you might consider using. And so I looked at it, and all of the needles for white people were not available. And I was like, okay, that's fine. So then I sent it to my handful of Black trans mask friends. And I was like, hey, I just looked to see if they were accepting applications for the for people of color, and they were. And so I sent that out, including to Alice. And I think Alice has either mentioned this on the show or in the Discord server. Sorry. Alice is my co-host on the show here. And so Atlas was able to, look at that and shared it out, and got all of this like weird, like shared it in like a Facebook group or something. And some white trans people were like getting on Atlas's case about this opportunity and saying racist stuff. Like, why not us? Why are we excluded? And it's like, dear white people, you have so much privilege. Step off. Like, you have so much systemic privilege. Absolutely, we need to have these types of funds and grants that are specifically for people of color, that are specifically for Black people. And no, it's not for you.
Yeah.
And white people, you should be sharing these resources with your Black friends. They need to know. Like, you might have more time on social media. Like, you might have more time seeing these resources, especially if you're not working a bunch of jobs or whatever you're doing. Like, make it easy for your friends who need those resources. So anyways, that only feels tangentially topical, but I just like calling out the racism and saying it's bullshit. So here we go. I said our one swear. I'm sorry. I spent it. I spent our swear.
It's definitely necessary. And, I've been asked this question before. I've gotten those racist geared messages directly to me. And for one, first of all, let's just say, looking at me, I am a Black man, right? And also, I looked, and it's the reason why I started Dem Bois specifically for trans men of color, because, there are organizations that grant other folks. But when I would look on their summary of like past recipients, I didn't see many people of color. That's and right. I'm like, wait a minute, there's people of color that need these services too. Where are they? Why aren't they being granted these funds? And so that's another reason why I was very specific and very intentional about Dem Bois being for trans men of color.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Butch Twink is saying in the chat, as an Afro-Latinx queer trans mask, the fact that Dem Bois exist, nobody got us like we got us. And then all white, like those other things, all white. Yeah. Yeah, I really thank you for doing what you're doing, Shawn. It's really important work.
Thank you.
So can you tell us more about the financial aid grant program offered by Dem Bois? We've talked around it a bit, but do you have a more specific sort of this is the thing that you'd like to share?
Yeah. As far as when the grant process will be open this year, not quite sure yet. We're still working on that. But it's a yearly grant program. Last year, we were able to grant five folks, excuse me, with help for their gender affirming surgery. So it's pretty much just it's an open application process, right? And if you identify as being a trans man of color and you're looking for financial assistance for gender affirming surgery, whatever gender affirming surgery that you would like, you put in an application. I just like to note, like, to be specific to folks of like, hey, because we've gotten application before. It's like, I get it, right? We all want, our gender affirming surgeries. We all want to feel comfortable in our bodies, but it's also important to know, like, hey, I would like to get this. I know that it costs this much, and this is the place where I would like to get this done. We have had folks in the past of like, yeah, I want it. Okay, well, when do you want it? I don't know, but I know I want it. Right. So it's like to be prepared, know what it is that you're asking for. And so we open up the grant process once a year. Last year was from February up until March 21st. And the dates behind when the applications open is very specific to my journey. So I try to open them when there's an anniversary for myself. So last year was February. I hope I'm getting this right. I think it was February 11th, right? And so it was like my transition anniversary. And so you apply. We goes through a vetting process where folks in my team, we look at it and we kind of like, go through based on our budget and how many applications we have. We had 380 applications last year.
Wow.
And we even got a big chunk of international applications. We only grant for folks that are in the US currently, but we're looking to build our capacity out to maybe offer grants for international folks in the future.
Yeah.
But it just goes to show the need, right, of how many
It sure does.
folks need assistance worldwide that,
Yeah.
How
long does it take to go through that many grants? 380, that's a lot.
It takes a minute. A lot. I've gotten messages of folks like, "What's taking so long? How come I don't know?" Well, wait a minute. We gotta, me personally, I look at each and every one, and sometimes it's overwhelming, right? Because it's like all these folks need help, and it's impossible to help everyone, right? You have to really go through the process with me and my team of like, what were the criteria, right? But it's like I read them all. So it takes a while. It takes a minute. But it's just, I want to know who folks are. I want to know the need. I want to know what people are looking for and how can we expand it in the future? Or maybe we don't do this, but maybe next time we will, like, right? So it's like really to like go through and look at everyone.
Yeah. Yeah. I relate to those dilemmas.
Yeah.
So it's called Dem Bois Inc., which sounds like incorporated. And this is a question I just came up with. I'm curious if, like, paper for tax reasons, if you all are listed as a for-profit or a nonprofit, and how you decided that, because I've been wrestling with trying to figure that out for my own gender federation entity that I'm working on, for profit or not. And I have heard from some communities of color that there's a general distrust of nonprofits. And so I don't know if yours is a nonprofit or not. And I'm just curious to hear more about that. And how do you handle taxation and all of the stuff where it's like, we can't get away of, you and I both live in the United States. There are tax laws and we have to pay our dues. So how do you handle that while you're balancing all of these other really important, like, direct mutual aid pieces?
So Dem Bois is a nonprofit.
Okay.
And I don't really handle all that. I have an accountant that handles all of that, taxes and all of those things. But it is a nonprofit. All donations are tax deductible, everything. And even currently now, I volunteer all of my full-time hours. So I don't even get paid doing the work also, to make that transparent. So it's all nonprofit. Everything, all the money that we bring in now goes directly out to the programs for now. We're looking to build capacity in the future. But for now, at 100% of everything that comes in goes out into our programs.
Yeah. That's so incredible, Shawn. It's full time. So do you have another job to put a roof over your head? Like how do you stay housed and fed while you're doing this important work?
Yeah, I do. I actually do have another job that I've been doing for 20 years.
Wow.
So that's how I pay my bills and how I eat and how I survive.
Yeah. It's incredible.
So there are 2 other programs that are currently active right now. So that's one is on pause, which is our care package program. And then also we have Dem Bois Podcast, which I'm the host of. So those are the 2 other programs that we have.
All right, Shawn. So you mentioned your care package program and your podcast. Your care package program is on pause. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, about the program or why it's on pause?
Maybe both.
Okay. So the program originally started in 2020 during the peak of the pandemic. And when I talk about Dem Bois and the programs, I always in how Dem Bois started, right? It was very, very specific to my life and what I did and how I wanted to pay it forward. But during the pandemic, like I mentioned before the break, I'm blessed actually, and I won't deny that. And so I have an income, and I'm okay, right? And with my family or whatever. So during the pandemic, I ordered a lot of toiletries from Target. You couldn't go in the store. I didn't want to wait in line, and I didn't want to wear a mask, so I ordered everything, and I got all these boxes full of everything we needed, right? Tissue and soap and all. And I was thinking, I'm like, I had to recognize my privilege in that moment. I'm like, everybody is not able to do this. There are people out there. I was blessed, right? I didn't lose my job. And actually, we didn't even have to show up for work, but we were still getting paid. That's a blessing, right? And realizing that there are people that maybe they're restaurant workers or maybe they're transportation workers, and they don't have this privilege. Life is really hard right now. What can I do? And I was like, no, maybe we could put together some care packages to send out to folks, and knowing that trans men of color or trans folks of color are always on the margins, right? It's like we tend to fall into those places where that was most impacted by COVID, right? And so I just threw it out there. And then when I first started, I used my own funds. So I took money out of my own bank account and I bought all of the things that was needed for the care packages, put them together. And then I posted it up on the website about, hey, we have care packages. I reached out to some folks and other organizations I live in the Bay Area. So and other organizations in the area that may have folks that were in need. And so we mailed out over 100 care packages within a couple of months. So
That's amazing.
Talking about towels, socks, lotion, deodorant, toothpaste, toothbrush, mouthwash. We have like these little backpacks that we put in there with our name on it, our logo on it. For folks, if maybe you're unhoused, and you can put everything in that box, in that bag from the box and carry it with you. And it also was very personal to me as well, because there was a time in my life where I was homeless for 2.5 years and I didn't have those things. So I know exactly personally how it feels to receive things that you need, and not being able to afford those things. Taking care of your basic hygiene needs is very important. It makes you feel great about yourself, and just being clean, brushing your teeth, right? No matter what's going on in the day, if you're clean, sometimes it just makes your situation just a little bit better, knowing that you're clean, right? So that's how it started. We got in a lot of requests for them, even after we were done with them. And so I was like, hey, I can't really continue this on personally, right? Financially for myself. So I went out, asked a couple of, put in some grants of, hey, we need some help with this program. We were granted money to continue the program. So since then, it's become a permanent program within Dem Bois. It's on hold now because we're fundraising to get more items again.
Nice.
And Oh, to put some. We have very few, but not enough to post it up on the website where we can just mail out a lot. So we want to make sure that we're having a sufficient amount where we can mail them out in larger quantities. And we also send it out priority mail. So we know we don't want folks to have to wait, right? We don't want you to wait 10 days, 15 days for you to get the things that you need. So we mail them out priority mail and usually get it within 2 to 3 days.
Wow. I love that. What important material support you're offering to the communities around you? That's so needed. For me as a disabled person, I don't have the physical energy to be on the street handing things out. I'm curious if you do have unhoused people who are applying, how with them? Are you out on the street, interacting with folks? Do they need internet access to be able to apply? How do you navigate that piece?
Yes,
I've wrestled with that. That's been I have turmoil in my heart about, the people who need this the most don't have access to the online resources to connect with me. And I physically don't have the energy to be out in the world doing that. And how do I balance that?
Yeah, that's definitely a challenge. We don't go out to give them away, but we have provided it to folks that are unhoused. And one thing that I ask is, do you have anyone, one person that would accept this package on your behalf? And we'll mail it to the person. We've had that happen where it's like, hey, or even where folks will say, hey, I'm not out to my family. Do you mind sending it to my friend's house? They'll accept it on my behalf. Or do you mind using my birth name on the package, because otherwise my parents would turn it away. There has been moments, we're willing to work with folks if you just let us know your story, right? And we've tried as best we can to meet folks where they are.
Yeah. That's so incredible, Shawn. You have a podcast too.
Yes.
Yeah. Tell us about Dem Bois podcast.
Yes, Dem Bois podcast just launched last May.
Nice.
This is also another thing geared towards trans men of color and telling our stories. There's a different type of a life experience, right? When you're talking about growing up as a person of color. And so our stories are rarely highlighted, right? And so someone gave me this idea about the podcast. And at first I kind of shoot it off, right? Oh no, I can't do that. I'm introverted. Oh, no way. It's not happening. And I sat back and I thought about it for a little bit. And it was on my mind really, really, really heavy. I dreamed about it. I was thinking about it when I was at work. I was thinking about it when I was in the shower. And I was like, well, you know what? I don't see any trans men of color out here telling their stories widely like that. Maybe there is something there, right? And so I did my little research and I started working with a podcast producer, which is Jasmine from Pink Lady Productions. And the podcast was formed. And so within the podcast, I have guests. Podcast episodes are released every Wednesday. Nice. Currently in February, we're on a break. So after every batch of 8 episodes, I take a break. I need a break to have a mental break. I need a break to revive myself, rejuvenate myself. Because as you know, right, podcasting is very difficult, and it takes a lot of energy to talk in the whole space for someone and their stories. And then so 2 episodes out of the month is a solo episode from me, and then the other 2 episodes are guest episodes. So on the show, I've shared my transition story. I've shared a story about my homelessness, about transitioning at work. I'm also a parent, so I'm a father. I talked about raising my son. We've had conversations with folks about, I won't say we, because I'm the host of the show. So I've had conversations with folks about love, sex, and relationships. A broad range of things. I've interviewed Braxton from Stealth Bros and Co.
Nice. Braxton is so cool.
Yeah, Zeke.
Congrats to Braxton's new baby situation. So sweet.
Yes, he talked on the episode about wanting to be a father and how he always wanted to be a father. So that's great to see that manifested, right?
Yeah, totally.
So you can listen to the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google, all of that. So yeah.
I love that so much. That's So cool. I can't wait to go listen to it. Do you have some favorite episodes of your podcast? It's like picking your favorite child, but sometimes, I don't know, sometimes you can really connect with a guest, or you like someone who's sort of more high profile than you've ever had before is on the show. And like, I know for me, I'll have people on and then I'll be like, did I really just interview so-and-so? Like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
it's exciting.
I think a solo episode, I'm going to speak on that one first.
All
One
right.
of the most powerful episodes that I have done was about telling my homelessness story.
Mm,
This is the first time in my life that I've actually worked through that and processed that. I used to not be able to even talk about it without just bawling my eyes out, crying. But I was able to, of course, I couldn't say all the nuances, right? There are like nuances in being homeless, and I can't go over every single fact, right?
mhm.
I told a large chunk of it, and the biggest pieces of it that shaped who I am today. I would say that that's one of my favorite, and I would say that's a go-to for folks, because we don't talk about that, right? How many, and now we're not even talking about just trans men of color, but just trans folks in general, right? Of experienced homelessness, LGBT youth that experience homelessness. And I was a child, right? So I had just turned 18. So yeah, so I would say that's a good episode. I've also had one of my favorites is with Melly.
Okay.
Melly's episode has actually been one of the most popular ones. It's most listened to episode. Melly is a therapist. And so the episode was almost like I was in therapy. It was like we
Oh,
talked
cool.
very softly and like this. And it was very moving to hear Melly's story.
Mhm.
That was another really good one. But I've had the love, sex, and relationship one was really, really good. We had 5 folks on there, one person from the UK, and we just talked about it all: love, sex, and relationships. So I think that was another great one as well.
Wonderful. What a great span of topics. I love that. I also love that you've designed rest into your plan.
Yes, absolutely.
That's really important. I recently, like during my hysterectomy recovery, I had to take a week or two off of work. I took one full week and then was on sort of limited activity the second week. Um, and it was hard to let go, to be honest, of all the stuff, because it's like it's all important to me. And I am really lucky to have all of these wonderful helpers around that are doing the things. Um, and so um, I realized during that sort of fallow time when I was not constantly working, designing in more rest into my cadence. Because as you know, this kind of community organizing, it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. And so we have to put this rest in by design from the beginning, or we're going to burn out and all this work will end abruptly. Like,
You
so I
can't.
love that you're modeling that.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Sorry about that.
No, it's okay.
You can't pour from an empty cup. I can't give you all of me or 100% of me if I'm not well, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it gives me time to regroup, gives me time to recruit more guests. It gives me time to just create more graphics. It just gives me time where I'm not on per se on, which is talking. Some people don't realize how much energy it takes to hold. And some of the stories that I've shared and talked with folks are very heavy. And even sometimes off air, I've talked to folks. We talk longer about things that are very heavy. And I'm the type of person I take in all of that energy. So it's very important for me to kind of digress and just get my rest and be able to do the things that I need to do without having to focus on holding space.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for modeling that. That's so good. Let's see. How does the work and services provided through Dem Bois resonate with your own gender journey?
We kind of touched on that a little bit. I would just say, like I said before, with the care package program, it resonates with me because I was there before and I know how that feels. And to be able to, the comments I've gotten back from folks about it once they receive it, it's life changing. You think that, oh,
Mm-hmm.
it's just a toothbrush. No, brushing your teeth, that it's life changing.
Yeah.
And just to reflect on a moment when I was homeless, I didn't brush my teeth. I didn't take a bath. I didn't wash up. I didn't comb my hair. And I felt like crap.
Mm-hmm.
And so that really, really resonates with me of a way of like, it's just like taking a rest, right? Being well and taking care of yourself is very, very important. So that really resonates with me a lot. I think, and also like when I talked about just the gender affirming surgery grants of, you know, that resonates with me as well, right? Because I've had that privilege to just go through it and didn't really think much of it. And it should be in reality, if I think about it, right? If I'm thinking about future, I wish that them boys didn't even exist. I wish that it didn't need to exist. I wish that everyone had what they need when they needed it. And it wasn't somebody in a suit telling you, nah, you know, your surgery doesn't count, or, you know, so it's like, no, we're not going to pay for this, because no, it shouldn't be like that. We shouldn't have to have these programs. Everyone should be well. Everyone should be able to live and be happy in the ways that they want to be happy. So it all resonates with me, right? And even with the podcast, I find it as therapeutic, right? To be able to share my story and hear other folks' stories as well, right? And to know like you're not alone, I'm not alone, and there's other people listening that resonate with these stories. And like, you know, we're trans folks, we're not monolithic, right? There's many layers and many different experiences that we go through. And, you know, my experience might not resonate with someone, but I guess their experience may. So it's just about, it's therapeutic. So
yeah. So for those who are listening to this and are excited about Dem Boys, but maybe are sort of financially strapped in this moment, what are some non-monetary ways that they could support Dem this this series of initiatives that you are shepherding?
Share. Let folks know where we are and the work that we're doing. Let folks know in your network about the podcast. Let folks know, you know, hey, if you know someone that needs help, hey, you know, like you said earlier, tell your friends, let your friends that this program exists, because folks, I feel like we're still fairly new, right? Because not as many people know about us that should in the work that we do. So it's definitely share. Volunteer when we're looking for volunteers. We will be looking for volunteers soon. Folks locally to the Bay Area that can help us put all the care packages together, because that's a lot of work too, right? Can volunteer. Connect. I love to connect with people. You know, I love to share stories of, and one thing I will say is share resources with us so we can share with folks that we know. It's another thing. Yeah.
I love that. You know, those types of grassroots networks where we're kind of staying connected in those ways, that is powerful and important. You're making me think that I should probably put together maybe like an email list of past guests so we can share resources with each other. Because I feel like yes, it was on the podcast and it can be this ephemeral, like I spent an afternoon doing this one time, or it can be a beginning, it can be this introduction that then we keep running together and we keep helping each other and passing each other resources when we get it, and like encouraging one another in this important like trans solidarity work that we're up to. You know, I don't want to miss the opportunity to keep helping each other, you know. It's so hard. I don't know. Because of COVID, I still stay home most of the time. I have the privilege of being able to do that. And as a disabled person, I don't want to risk getting sick. I caught COVID and we're like 3 years into this pandemic. We're rolling into the 3 and something change amount of time at this point of the recording. And so like, I still haven't gotten sick, and I know so many people who have, and I think I would take it really poorly. So a lot of my organizing is online, which means I have to try harder to meet people, right? Can't run into somebody at the grocery store and, you know, come up with a great plan like all of a sudden. So yeah, I think that's an interesting point, Shawn, about continuing to reach for each other.
Team effort, right? Because of course, like without working with other folks, then boys can't it's a team effort, and the reach can be broader if the more we work together with each other. It's just like a sporting team, right? You can't have Curry. He can't win the game alone, right? He may be able to shoot a lot of threes. At times, he may need to pass the ball, right? So it's like it's a team effort.
It is a team effort. So we've mentioned this a few times, but now I'm going to more formally bring it up. So your 10th anniversary of starting Tea is February 11th. Congratulations. As of this live recording, that's in like 5 days. When this publishes on Friday, it'll be tomorrow. So exciting. And Dem Bois is fundraising to mark the occasion. 2 questions. 1, how does it feel to be transitioning? And 2, what are you doing to celebrate this milestone personally? How are you celebrating? What rituals or habits or things have you designed? Because we have to make up our own, right? Like, yeah. How are you celebrating?
You know what? I'm gonna start with personally. In that moment, it just clicked in my head of like, I'm not doing anything personally. I need to be, right? I need to celebrate.
You're not doing anything yet. It's basically your birthday, right? It's your trans birthday. My wife celebrates her trans birthday and her belly button birthday, like her born day, as 2 separate birthdays. She gets twice as many presents.
Yeah, that's amazing. Because I usually celebrate my born day. I like that belly button day. I like that. I'm gonna use that. I usually celebrate that, and I also celebrate the day I changed my name as my other birthday. So I never thought of a transition celebration. Now now my wheels are turning. I'm definitely going to think about something to do.
You have a whole week to think of it. It could be small, right? It could be like you have your favorite meal, or you have a beloved over to share that favorite meal with, or my community has a fair number of video editors, and so last year my editor Lexington put together a montage of my check-ins that I do. You heard me do the check-in before the show today, and so did it really well and put together. I was like inspired by my own content, and it was the first time I had seen something edited of me being in it, and I was like inspired by it. Like, I'm passionate about what I talk about, but being passionate is different from like being inspired by your own words. I don't know. It's hard to describe like how incredible that is. It shows Lexington's skill. He's a trans man out in Germany who I met on the internet doing this job. So yeah, it's powerful to like have those like, and it's all packed up. Like, you can go watch my 1-year HRT anniversary video on my YouTube channel. It's there to enjoy. It's like 4 or 5 minutes long, and it's one of my favorite pieces of content we've ever made. So yeah, trans joy, Shawn, right? Like joy away from us.
Yes,
and it is a form of resistance. Being joyful, being happy, feeling loved, having beautiful life experiences is a form of resistance as trans people.
Yes.
Here's Nefertiti saying hi to everybody.
It's definitely I definitely gonna think about it. I didn't think I would be here. I did not think I was gonna be here. And I won't say that I didn't think that I was gonna be 40. I never really thought that far ahead. I just was, especially being homeless, just a moment of transparency and a trigger warning, but I wanted to end my own life. So to be here in this moment, to even be, my birthday is in March. So it's like my transition anniversary in February and my 42nd birthday in March. And so just all of that and together is actually, just thinking about it, it's overwhelming for me in this moment. Because I know folks that didn't make it. We all know folks that didn't make it. And to be here and to share my story, it's like a bittersweet moment. Definitely. Very emotional. Excuse me. Because I didn't think I would be here. Organizationally, Dem Bois is celebrating my 10-year transition anniversary. If you follow us on Instagram, we're currently tracking it from the 1st of February until the actual day, the 11th. We wanting to raise $1,000 in celebration of that.
Love that.
Just grateful, and the money raised in celebration will all go towards this year's gender affirming surgery fund.
That's great.
All of that money raised will go right back into the work that we do.
That's amazing. I'm gonna finish my donation after the show because it's only debit card. So I was like, what's the thing? It's okay. Probably less transaction fees, which is better. Yeah. So I just want to invite the audience. The donate link was just plopped in the chat right there. dembois.networkforgood.com. Yeah. Do it. You should do it. I'm gonna do it. It's gonna be great. I feel like especially in the United States, it's Black History Month. I think in the UK, they celebrate it maybe in August. They have Black August. But here in the States, it's Black History Month. And it's also Black Futures Month, right? It's not just about looking back. It's also about looking forward and dreaming about the future and dreaming about a future we didn't think we could have, right? You just said you didn't know if you didn't realize you'd make it this far. Many trans and BIPOC and disabled and other marginalized identity people don't think they're going to make it to being aged or old or, parent or grandparent age. So many people think they're going to have like a brilliant roaring 20s and that's it. And so, I'm 33. I never thought I would have a house or a spouse, and I do. And that's weird. And I'm grateful. And like, I hear you on just like, well, I don't know. For me, it almost feels like bonus time. It's like, well, I made it farther than I thought. So the rest of it's just bonus. Like I better make good use of it because I didn't expect to get this far. So y'all, if you have the means, please donate and consider making it a monthly thing, because a one-time donation, when it's like the special topic of the month, it's nice, right? And I feel like I talked about this on stream the other day, but I don't think I've said it on the show yet. So I'm going to say it now. Those one-time contributions absolutely are better than nothing. And if you did half as much or a tenth as much, but you did it ongoing for over a year, that consistent support is how content creators, grant activities like this, all of it continue to thrive. Like I can tell you, for me as a content creator, there's all these people contacting me right now saying, oh, there's this terrible turfy game give you money. And I said, first of all, you need to be giving BIPOC trans people the money before me. Second of all, ongoing material support is way more helpful than the one-time donation. And we're still grateful for the one-time donation, right? It's a both and. So I've been spending time like educating our allies about that, because it's important. It's important for folks to realize when they're having that, whatever it is, the call to action, the like, I want to do something about this oppression, the white guilt, the like cis guilt, whatever it is, and it's motivating people to get their wallets out. It's important to remember that we are marginalized and oppressed 24/7, not just during Black History Month, not just during Pride Month, not just during this thing got released. We still have to pay our bills and feed our cats and feed our children and put clothes on our backs and buy our toothpaste, 6 months from now, and it's not our special fancy month. So anyways, I'm just throwing it out there, y'all, to consider an ongoing support over a one-time. And anything is better than nothing. If you have $5 today and that's it forever, thank you for your contribution. Like, the fact that you're giving it all is absolutely still meaningful. Yeah.
That's very, very powerful that you said that in that way. And I think just to give it a little context, right? Like any amount counts. That one time is wonderful. Thank you for your sacrifice, because that's a sacrifice, right? If you're giving $10, that's a sacrifice, because that was a meal that you could have eaten. That was a cup of coffee. So that's definitely a sacrifice. But just to give it like a little context, right? Of like, let's just say I'm Shawn, I'm going to go on Dem Bois Network for Good. I'm going to donate $100 every month. Let's just speak. And I will say, in a moment of transparency, I also donate to Dem Bois. I also, when I get paid, I also take out my debit card and I go on our website and I donate money, because I know that the programs are important and I know the work that we're doing is important, right?
Yeah.
But just say, all right, I'm going to give $100 a month for the next 12 months. and we did get the calculator because I'm not good with math, that's $1,200. That $1,200 can pay for one person to have gender affirming surgery.
Yeah.
It could pay
I just got chills. Yeah.
1 year of someone donating $100 a month. That will provide financial assistance to one person, because we have given one person before pay for their copay, $1,200.
Yeah.
Or everyone's payment is different, right? Based on what you're, if you have benefits, if you don't have medical benefits. So everyone's scale of pay is different. But just to think, $1,200 can pay for one person to have gender affirming surgery.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Gosh, I'm getting chills hearing that. It's amazing. So there you go.
Yeah.
Think about it, y'all. Okay. So I have one question from the audience. They're asking, does Dem Bois have a social media presence where folks could boost their work?
Yes, we do. So we have an Instagram page, Facebook page. Yeah. So now I'm mostly active. I monitor the Instagram page, so I'm mostly active on that. So yeah, you can share the work there. You can share our fundraisers there. You can share the podcast from there. All of that. You can follow us from there. You can reach out, DM from there. All of that. And also there's a link tree there. So from the link tree, it'll connect you to our website. It'll connect you to our donation page through Network for Good. Network for Good is a fundraising platform that monitors all of our donations and donors and all of that, all in one place, all in-house in one place. You can also, recently I just posted the YouTube channel that I started when I first started to transition. That's on there, a couple of videos there. There's a link to the podcast. All of that is there from our Instagram page.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. And I just plopped the link tree in the chat. And y'all, if you're looking for these and you're listening later, the link tree is in the show notes under the cross promotion section. So you will see that. Take a moment, go drop those follows right now while you're thinking about it. I know I get ADHD and I'm like, I'll do it later. And then I don't. So do it now. We'll wait.
Yeah, we'll wait.
We'll wait. All right. Welcome back. So, all right, we're getting towards the end of the show today. Is there anything that we missed about Dem Bois Inc. that you'd like to make sure that you can say, Shawn?
No, not really. I just think that, I was thinking about this morning when I woke up, of when where I am now, I didn't think I would be. And so Dem Bois has become my life work. So I'm 100% dedicated to the work. I believe in the work. I believe in what we're doing. Yeah. And I'm hoping to build the capacity of Dem Bois, so maybe offer different types of programs or different things, or just more funding with our grant program throughout the year, or more funding throughout the year. So it's like all these things I'm thinking about. So now it's like, this is my life work. This is important to me. I am doing Dem Bois work every single day, except for Sundays. I kind of try to take Sundays.
That's good. You got to take a day off. That's right. You got to have your you day.
Yeah, I'm a football fan, so usually during football season, Sunday, I'm not doing Dem Bois work.
Wasn't yesterday a big football day?
Oh, it's next Sunday. Yeah. So this Sunday they took the time off. They get that little 2 weeks of rest. So
all right.
Super Bowl rested and charged. So
all right. Aspiring audience members, who are you rooting for next Sunday?
Who I'm rooting for?
Yeah, who are you rooting for?
Okay, that's very complicated. So I'm a Raiders fan, and my Raiders.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I like to say I get so upset discussing the Raiders because they haven't done anything in all 42 years of my life. But I'm still a fan. I'm dedicated. But they're not in the Super Bowl. But I'm rooting for Kansas City.
All right.
Really like Holmes, so yeah.
I don't even know who they're playing. That's how disconnected from sports ball I am.
It's good. I only learned football. I never really watched football, right? Growing up, I didn't watch football as much. I did, but not as much as I'm involved now. I really dedicated my time to learning the game with raising my son, because he played football, and I wanted that to be a bond for us. And so I made it a point to learn everything about football and get very dedicated to football because I wanted to have that time to spend with my son.
Love that. Yeah. Now I have so many more questions. I want to hear about your son. That's so cool. Oh, that's so wonderful. Shawn, can you share an experience with gender euphoria? I like to hear about the happiness, the trans joy.
Trans joy.
Yeah.
You know what? My trans joy is right now in this moment.
Oh,
Very present in the moment right now of who I am, where I've come from. I won't say that the past doesn't matter. The past does matter because it made me who I am today. But right now in this moment, I've done the work. I'm constantly doing the work. Right. I'm in therapy. I'm managing my health. I'm working out. I'm eating well. In therapy. I have a community around me of chosen friends and family that I love and enjoy. I'm doing things now in my life that I've always wanted to do, right? So like traveling and, just my trans joy is right now in this moment. I'm happy.
yeah. I love that. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
All right. So my final question for you, Shawn, is sort of, I call it my soapbox question. So imagine someone hasn't seen this interview and they're just getting one little sound bite that maybe is going to get them riled up to come see what we're talking about. What would you like to make sure folks know about your perspective on gender and non-binary or trans issues?
There's a lot of work to be done. There's still a lot of work to be done. Every day we are being attacked, literally. And whether it's from violence, from transphobia, or whether it's from the government wanting to monitor us and limit the things that we have access to in our care. I think we are under attack, and the work is ongoing. Work needs to be done and to be continued.
Well, Shawn, thank you so much for being my guest today. It's been a pleasure having you. Folks, Shawn Aaron, he, him pronouns, is a Black trans-masculine individual and is the founder and executive director for Dem Bois Inc. You can check out Linktree/Dem Bois, BOIS for more information. You can also do that donation through Network for Good, which you can do on the website and in the description below. You can connect with Shawn in many places, including Instagram. Dem Bois Inc. is the Dem Bois account, and then Shawn Aaron 81 is Shawn's personal account. So folks, here's our Clatter query for the week that you can answer on our social media platforms. The dangers between Black womanhood and Black manhood may differ, but both are life and death. How do we build a world where merely existing in a Black body isn't a reason to be killed? It's a powerful question. The second Clatter query is, how do we raise the next generation of masculine folks to be able to allow them to experience a liberated masculinity that isn't toxic? Oof. You're coming in with the good questions, Shawn. You're slaying. You're putting it out there. I love it. So everyone, next week's guest is going to be KB Brookins, and we're going to be discussing KB's poetry. So for community updates, Atlas had a great Translate show on Friday last week, and will be might be back with us next week. Maybe not though, because the show's going to be later. It's going to be going live at 2:30 Pacific. So it might be me flying solo again. But y'all, we're going to have all kinds of resources for the show notes that you can check out once this is recorded, and have a great future month, everyone. And we'll catch you next time. Genderful would like to thank our guest for being on this podcast. If you'd like to catch us live, join us on Mondays at twitch.tv/GenderMeowster. Show notes will appear in the edited version of the show on Fridays on both YouTube and podcasting platforms.
If you have a question you would like the host to answer, or are gender diverse and would like to request an interview, please send an email to genderfulpodcast@gmail.com or sign up via the website at genderfulpodcast.com.
As a gender diverse community, the Clatter wants to assure our listeners that we are prepared to moderate our spaces. We will get positive and negative feedback on these shows and topics, and we have a moderation team on our channels, socials, and Discord server ready to deal with this.
Please join our Discord server at discord.gg genderful.org/Meowster to meet the community and get a regular digest of solidarity resources. You can also support us with subscriptions on Patreon, following and reviewing us on your favorite podcasting platform, or engaging with our posts and content on social media at GenderfulPod and GenderMeowster.
If you could take a few moments to also rate the show, we will post any 5-star reviews on our socials, so get creative. Mention a special interest of your own, a project you're working on, or even say hi to your comfort person in your review. What power!
This show is made possible by volunteers, tips, and subscriptions. Shout out to those helping us coordinate guests, edit the podcast, moderate the live chat, and post on our socials.
Artist credit for Genderful. Genderful's theme song is called Hope by Free Range Megs, aka Soma. The GenderMeowster logo was designed by That's Barnaby and edited with consent by Transgriffin. Genderful's pre-show is wrangled by JuiceTex. Genderful is edited and mixed by Transgriffin and Alexis Fandom. Genderful's social media is managed by Queer to Help. Genderful is hosted by Atlas O Phoenix and GenderMeowster. Genderful is the intellectual property of GenderMeowster. All rights reserved. Trans rights are human rights.
That's right.